It was supposed to be a legacy story. Mentor and protege, father figure and gifted kid who grew into a rap legend. But late last night, hip-hop timelines exploded when whispers started spreading that Lil Wayne may finally be lifting the veil on what really happened behind closed doors with Birdman. And if even half of what fans are speculating is true, this isn't just rap drama. This is pain that's been buried for decades. Fans are shocked. Grown men are arguing online. Old interviews are being replayed in slow motion. Because suddenly, moments that once felt like loyalty now feel like control. Moments that looked like love now feel complicated. And the question everyone's asking is chilling. Was Lil Wayne protected or was he trapped? According to industry chatter, Wayne has been hinting for years, not outright saying it but circling the truth. Lines in songs, awkward laughs in interviews, long pauses when Birdman's name came up. And now? Those pauses are being reinterpreted as survival instincts. As silence learned early, people close to the situation claim Wayne's childhood in the industry wasn't just pressure, it was dependency, contracts, control. Emotional manipulation masked as family. And when you grow up calling someone dad, how do you ever admit they hurt you? Emotions ran high as fans revisited old Cash Money footage. Wayne as a kid, Birdman standing over him. Smiling, guiding, owning everything around him. The power imbalance feels different now, heavier. And the family was left divided, not just the label, but the culture itself. Tonight, we're breaking down the whispers, the history, the moments nobody questioned until now. Because if Lil Wayne is finally telling his side, even indirectly, this could change how hip-hop remembers one of its most iconic partnerships forever. Begins where the myth starts cracking, back when nobody was calling it abuse because nobody was even asking questions. At just 11 years old, Lil Wayne wasn't just signing a deal, he was entering a system. A grown man business. Cash Money wasn't a label back then, it was a hustle, and Birdman was the boss of it all. According to people close to those early days, Wayne didn't just get signed, he got absorbed. Moved into Birdman's world, Birdman's rules, Birdman's rhythm. Fans are shocked when they look back and realize how young Wayne really was. A child in studios at 3 a kid learning loyalty before learning boundaries. And everybody around them called it family. That word keeps coming up, family. In old interviews, Birdman proudly said Wayne was his son. Wayne echoed it, tattoos, public declarations. That's my dad. At the time, it looked beautiful. Inspirational, a success story. But according to whispers that have followed Wayne for years, that title came with conditions. Sources claim Wayne wasn't just guided, he was controlled. One former affiliate, speaking anonymously, alleged that Wayne had no real sense of choice. He didn't know where Birdman ended and the business began, the source claimed. When you raise a kid in contracts, they don't see contracts as pressure. They see them as normal. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because according to industry chatter, Wayne's entire identity was shaped inside Cash Money. What he wore, who he worked with, how he spoke, when he rested, when he recorded. Everything allegedly had Birdman's fingerprint on it, and when Wayne questioned things, the answer was always the same. This is how it's done. Emotions ran high even back then, just not publicly. People around the studio recall moments when Wayne would shut down after being corrected. Not angry, quiet. He'd just nod, one old engineer allegedly said, like he didn't want to disappoint him. That sentence alone has fans rethinking everything, because disappointment wasn't just personal, it was survival. Birdman controlled the money, the studio access, the release dates, Wayne's entire future. And when your mentor is also your employer and your employer calls himself your father, the power imbalance becomes invisible until it isn't. Wayne has hinted at this in music for years, lyrics about loyalty hurting, about love feeling like chains, about being owned without saying the word. Fans brushed it off as metaphor, pain sells in rap. But now people are replaying those songs with new ears, and they're hearing something else. One line in particular resurfaced online, with fans saying, "This don't sound like exaggeration anymore. This sound like confession." Behind the scenes, the pressure allegedly intensified as Wayne's fame grew. More money, more expectations, more control. Birdman was praised as a genius for building an empire, but insiders say that empire was rigid. There was no Wayne without Birdman, one source claimed, and he made sure Wayne knew that. That message sticks with a kid. Friends from Wayne's early life allegedly noticed changes, distance, isolation, a constant need for approval. He always asked if it was okay, one childhood acquaintance reportedly said, even when he didn't need permission. Fans are shocked hearing stories like that because Wayne on stage was fearless, wild, untouchable, but off stage, people say he was careful, measured, like someone who learned early that love could be taken away. And then there's the emotional manipulation rumors. Multiple unverified sources claim Birdman would swing between praise and coldness. One day calling Wayne his pride, the next reminding him who put him on. That push-pull dynamic, classic Control, but nobody had the language for it back then, especially not a kid. The family was left divided even in those early days. Some people in Cash Money saw Birdman as a savior. Others quietly worried, but nobody spoke up because speaking up meant exile. And nobody wanted to be the one who broke the family. Wayne certainly didn't. According to close friends, Wayne internalized everything. He worked harder, recorded more, pushed himself past exhaustion. Because love in that environment wasn't unconditional, it was earned. Daily. And here's the darkest part fans are still grappling with. When Wayne reportedly shot himself as a teenager, many believed it was an accident, a tragic moment. But whispers have followed that incident for years. Some say it was deeper. Some say it was despair. Some say it was a cry no one heard or wanted to hear. No official statements confirm that, but the timing, the pressure, the age. Fans are shocked connecting those dots now. Birdman's response at the time was seen as supportive, publicly, but insiders claim Wayne was back in the studio fast. No pause, no healing, because the machine didn't stop. Music became therapy and prison. As Wayne grew older, the cracks widened. Money disputes, contract fights, public tension, but fans always framed it as business. This happens to every artist. But people close to Wayne say it wasn't just about money. It was about freedom, about finally realizing that the man he called dad might also be the one holding the keys. And that realization doesn't come easy. Because how do you accuse someone who raised you? How do you confront someone who built you? How do you call something abuse when it was wrapped in love? Wayne never said it outright. Not yet, but the pauses got longer, the interviews more guarded, the affection less loud. And when fans look back now, of this story doesn't feel like success anymore. It feels like a childhood traded for a crown, and the cost was paid in silence, where the story stops feeling like a rough childhood and starts feeling like a quiet war behind closed doors. As Lil Wayne grew into a superstar, the dynamic allegedly didn't loosen, it tightened. More money meant more control, more fame meant more eyes. And according to people who were around Cash Money during its peak, Wayne's success didn't free him, it trapped him deeper. Fans are shocked when they realize how often Wayne described himself as owned in old interviews, always laughing, always joking, but never denying it. At the time, it sounded like loyalty. Now, it sounds like resignation. Sources claim Wayne started asking questions in private about contracts, about royalties, about why albums were delayed, about why his work funded everything except his freedom, and that's when the tone allegedly changed. One former insider says Birdman didn't yell, didn't threaten, he reminded. Who saved you? Who put you on? Where would you be without me? Those words cut deeper than anger because they rewrite reality. They make gratitude feel like debt and debt feel endless. Emotions ran high during this era, but fans only saw the surface. Wayne smiling next to Birdman, kissing him on the cheek at award shows, calling him dad louder than ever. But insiders say that public affection was armor. The louder Wayne praised Birdman, the safer he felt. Behind the scenes, the family was left divided. Some people in the Cash Money circle allegedly noticed Wayne pulling away emotionally. He'd show up, record obsessively, then disappear. No celebrations, no joy, just work. One producer reportedly said, Wayne didn't party like the rest of us. He worked like he was scared to stop. That fear didn't come from the streets anymore. It came from expectations. When Wayne wanted to experiment musically, rumors say he was shut down. When he wanted breaks, he was reminded of obligations. When he questioned release dates, the answer was always business, but it felt personal. Like punishment disguised as strategy. Fans are shocked revisiting the years when Wayne's albums were delayed again and again. At the time, people blamed label politics. Now they're asking, was it leverage? Because control doesn't always look like force, sometimes it looks like access. According to unverified claims, Birdman allegedly decided when Wayne could drop music, when he could tour, and when he could speak, not overtly, subtly. With silence, with approvals that never came, with promises that kept moving. Wayne reportedly confided in close friends that he felt stuck, rich, famous, and powerless all at once. "I got everything," he allegedly said once, "except myself." That quote resurfaced recently, and fans haven't stopped talking about it. The emotional toll started showing. Wayne's interviews grew darker. He joked about death, about numbness, about not feeling human. People laughed it off. That's just Wayne being Wayne. But mental health wasn't a conversation back then, especially not for men, especially not in hip-hop. And definitely not for someone who owed everything to the man everyone called a genius. When Wayne finally took legal action years later, fans framed it as betrayal. "How you sue your own father?" people asked. But insiders say that lawsuit wasn't about money, it was about breath, about finally saying, "I exist outside of you." That move shattered the illusion. Birdman responded publicly with love, smiles, words like misunderstanding, family, but sources claim the private conversations were colder, dismissive, hurtful, like Wayne was being ungrateful for questioning the structure that raised him. Fans are shocked at how often the word ungrateful appears in this story, because gratitude was the leash. Wayne's inner circle reportedly begged him to keep things quiet. "Don't ruin your image, don't burn bridges, don't bite the hand that fed you." But Wayne had reached a breaking point. Years of silence had built pressure, and pressure always finds a crack. The family was left divided again. Some artists stood with Birdman, others quietly supported Wayne but stayed silent publicly. Nobody wanted to choose sides openly because cash money wasn't just a label, it was a gatekeeper. Wayne, for the first time in his life, was alone. Fans saw him cry on stage, saw him thank fans like they saved him. Saw him say things like, "Y'all keep me alive." Those weren't just words. People close to him say those crowds felt like freedom, the only place where approval didn't come with conditions. And then came the reconciliation. Public hugs, smiles, statements about family forever. Fans breathed a sigh of relief. "It's over," they said. "They fixed it." But insiders claim the damage was already done. Trust doesn't snap back into place just because the cameras are on. Wayne never sounded the same after that. He was still brilliant, still influential, but the joy felt muted, like someone who survived something they never fully processed. And when fans ask now why Wayne seems distant, guarded, tired, people close to him say it's because healing doesn't come with headlines. The most haunting part, Wayne still calls Birdman Dad. Fans are shocked by that more than anything. Because it shows how deep the conditioning runs, how love and harm can exist in the same space, how you can recognize pain without being able to name it. Of this story isn't about proving anything. It's about understanding how power, loyalty, and childhood collide in an industry that doesn't slow down for kids. And by the time Wayne realized something was wrong, he had already given everything, including his silence. Where the story turns inward, where the damage stops being about contracts and power and starts being about memory. By this point in the timeline, Lil Wayne wasn't fighting Birdman anymore. According to people close to him, he was fighting himself. Because once you step back from an environment that raised you, the questions don't come all at once, they come at night, in quiet moments, when the noise fades. Fans are shocked hearing how Wayne allegedly began reprocessing his childhood in real time as an adult. Things he once laughed off started feeling heavy. Studio memories, conversations, jokes that didn't feel funny anymore. Praise that always came with pressure attached, and here's where it gets uncomfortable. Sources claim Wayne began asking himself a question he'd never allowed before. Was I protected or prepared to be used? That question alone changes everything. Friends say Wayne started opening up in fragments, never directly accusing, never naming harm outright, but saying things like, "I didn't get to be a kid," and "I don't know who I am without work." Those aren't just artist complaints, those are survival statements. Emotions ran high among the people closest to him. Some encouraged him to speak out. "Tell your story," they urged. Others warned him. "Once you say it, you can't take it back." Because calling out someone like Birdman doesn't just affect one relationship, it shakes an entire legacy. And Wayne knew that. According to unverified insiders, Wayne wrestled with guilt more than anger. Guilt for even questioning the man who fed him, housed him, built him. Guilt for wondering if love could coexist with harm. Because if it could, then who was he to complain? Fans are shocked when they realize how often Wayne framed his pain as weakness. In lyrics, he blamed himself, said he was broken, damaged, too far gone. But people close to him say that language wasn't self-awareness, it was conditioning. A kid taught to internalize everything. And that internalization came at a cost. Wayne's mental health reportedly declined during this period. Insomnia, substance dependency, emotional numbness. None of this was hidden, it was just normalized. That's rockstar life, people said, but insiders claim it was coping. Plain and simple. The family was left divided again, but this time not along label lines. Wayne's biological family allegedly struggled watching him navigate this. How do you compete with a man your child calls father? How do you protect someone who doesn't think they need protection anymore? One relative reportedly said he was loyal to a fault, even when it hurt him. That sentence hit fans hard when it resurfaced because it reframed Wayne's silence not as weakness, but as endurance. Then came the moments fans can't ignore anymore. Wayne's interviews shifted. He started speaking about trauma vaguely, cautiously, saying things like, "People don't realize what kids go through in this industry." At the time, fans nodded and moved on. Now, they're replaying those clips like evidence. One interview in particular went viral recently. Wayne pauses, looks down, and says, "Some things you don't understand until it's too late." He never explained what he meant. He didn't have to, fans felt it. And that's when the culture started asking the harder questions. If Wayne was raised in a system where obedience equaled love, what happens when that system collapses? If Birdman truly believed he was doing the right thing, does intention cancel impact? And if Wayne still loves him, does that invalidate his pain? There are no clean answers. That's what makes this story stick. Insiders say Wayne considered writing a tell-all, not a diss, not a hit piece, just his truth. But every time he got close, something stopped him. Loyalty, fear, or maybe the realization that naming harm doesn't automatically heal it. Because healing is messy and public, fans are shocked realizing Wayne might never fully expose anything, not because it didn't happen, but because survival taught him to protect the narrative that protected him. Meanwhile, Birdman's silence during these conversations has been interpreted in 100 different ways. Some say it's dignity, others say avoidance. Some believe he genuinely doesn't see the harm. And that might be the most painful possibility of all, because if someone doesn't know they hurt you, how do you ever get closure? Wayne reportedly tried to find peace through distance, through music, through spirituality, through isolation. But distance doesn't erase memory, it amplifies it. And when you finally have space to breathe, you also have space to remember. Fans began noticing Wayne speaking differently about ownership, freedom, and self-worth. Lyrics that sounded less like bragging and more like reclaiming. "I'm finally mine," one line reads, and people lost it. Was that just rap talk, or was it a declaration? The culture remains split. Some fans say this narrative is disrespectful to Birdman. Others say it's long overdue for Wayne. And many sit in the middle, uncomfortable but listening. Because this isn't about picking villains, it's about acknowledging complexity. Doesn't give answers, it gives context. It shows how harm doesn't always come with fists or screams. Sometimes it comes with contracts, praise, and a child being told, "You're lucky." And when that child grows up, they have to decide whether gratitude and grief can exist in the same sentence. For Wayne, that decision is still unfolding. And for fans watching, the realization is heavy, because sometimes the most painful stories aren't the loud ones. They're the ones told in pauses, where the story stops living in the past and starts colliding with the present, because by now, the conversation wasn't just about what happened. It was about what it meant. Fans are shocked by how quickly the narrative around Lil Wayne shifted. For years, he was seen as the ultimate success story, the kid who made it, the prodigy who survived the system and became untouchable. But suddenly, people were asking a different question. What if surviving isn't the same as being safe? Online, the debates got intense. Some fans accused the internet of rewriting history. "Y'all projecting trauma where there isn't any," they said. Others fired back, "That's what people always say before they're ready to listen." Emotions ran high and the culture felt split straight down the middle. And right in the center of it all was Birdman, silent, unmoving, untouched by the storm publicly, yet everywhere in the conversation. What made hit harder was the realization that Wayne never needed to accuse anyone outright. The story was already telling itself. Fans began pointing out patterns instead of moments. The age, the power gap, the way Wayne spoke about himself versus how he spoke about Birdman. The way loyalty was always emphasized more than well-being. None of it was definitive, all of it was uncomfortable, and discomfort changes things. Podcasts debated it for hours. Psychologists weighed in without naming names, talking about grooming, dependency, and how children raised in high-pressure environments often normalize things that would alarm adults. Reaction videos popped up with titles like "This Hits Different Now" and "Why We Missed the Signs." The culture wasn't accusing, it was reflecting. The family was left divided in the fandom. You had one side saying, "This is dangerous. Stop putting labels on people." The other saying, "We're not labeling, we're listening." And in between were fans who grew up on Wayne's music, now realizing their hero may have been carrying weight they never noticed. According to people close to Wayne, he noticed the shift too, not with excitement, with caution. Sources claim Wayne was uncomfortable with the conversation becoming too loud, not because it was wrong, but because it was public. Because once the internet grabs a narrative, it stops being yours. And Wayne has spent his whole life with his story told by others. He reportedly didn't want Birdman attacked. He reportedly didn't want himself pitied. He reportedly wanted peace, but peace doesn't trend. Rumors swirled that Wayne was asked privately if he wanted to clarify things, if he wanted to set the record straight. His alleged response? "There's nothing to explain." That line alone sent fans spiraling. What does that mean? Nothing happened, or nothing needs defending? Both interpretations lived side by side. Birdman, for his part, continued to speak about Wayne with affection in older clips that resurfaced, calling him "my son," saying he'd die for him. Fans were shocked at how those same words now landed differently depending on who was listening. For some, they sounded like love. For others, they sounded like ownership. And that's the uncomfortable truth of two people can experience the same relationship very differently. Insiders say Wayne has reached a place where he doesn't need the story to have a villain. He doesn't need an apology. He doesn't need a public reckoning. He needs autonomy. And for the first time in his life, he has it. But the culture? The culture isn't done because Wayne's story opened a door bigger than him. It forced hip-hop to look at how many young artists were raised in systems where protection and profit blurred, where family sometimes replaced safeguards, where loyalty was rewarded but questioning was punished. Fans are shocked realizing Wayne might not be an exception, he might be the example. And that realization doesn't just affect Birdman or Cash Money. It affects the entire industry. The final twist of isn't a reveal or a confession, it's the silence. Wayne hasn't denied anything, he hasn't confirmed anything, he hasn't clarified anything, and that silence feels intentional. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a survivor or a participant or a witness can do is stop performing the version of the story everyone else expects. Wayne keeps making music, Birdman keeps his legacy. The culture keeps debating, and somewhere in the middle of it all is a truth that may never be fully spoken, not because it's fake, not because it's forbidden, but because it's complicated. Doesn't end with answers. It ends with a question the culture can't stop asking. What do we do when our legends are human? Because once you see that, you can't unsee it. And now we're at the part where the music fades out, but the conversation gets louder. Because this story was never really about picking sides. It wasn't about canceling anyone or rewriting history just for clicks. It was about finally listening to the pauses, the patterns, the moments we all ignored because the hits were too good and the story was too comfortable. Fans are shocked not because something was exposed, but because so much was reframed. Lil Wayne didn't sit down and drop a bombshell interview. He didn't point fingers. He didn't name names, and somehow that made everything heavier. This wasn't a loud accusation. It was a lifetime of hints, silence, and survival finally being seen through grown eyes. And whether you believe nothing crossed a line or you believe lines were blurred beyond repair, one thing is clear. This story isn't simple. It never was. So now the question comes to you. Do you think Wayne's loyalty was love or conditioning? Do you believe Birdman protected him the only way he knew how or controlled him in the process? And is it possible that both of those things can be true at the same time? Because hip-hop doesn't talk enough about what happens to kids who grow up inside the industry, about what it costs to be successful too early, about how power, money, and family can get tangled in ways nobody wants to unpack. This conversation isn't comfortable, and that's exactly why it matters. Now we want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us how you see it. Not the viral take, not the extreme side, your honest opinion. If this story made you rethink the Cash Money era, say that. If you think the internet went too far, say that too. And if you believe there's still more to Wayne's story that hasn't been told yet, let us know why. Make sure you like this video if it made you pause and think. Subscribe if you want more real conversations that don't get sugar-coated. And turn on notifications because stories like this don't end, they resurface. And when they do, you already know we'll be right here breaking it all down.